Hey everybody, and welcome to the AWS Summit Online. My name is Mark Ralph, and I'm the director of the IoT go-to-market team here at AWS. My team and I, which is made up of IoT salespeople, go-to-market specialists, and solution architects, are dedicated to helping customers all around the world have success building IoT infrastructures. It's my real pleasure, and I'm very excited about this topic, to talk about unlocking the full potential of the Internet of Things. For the next 20-25 minutes, I really want to explore the kinds of things that IoT can unlock, how it drives digital transformation, some stories of what's going on across industries and what some of our customers are doing, some of the tools and technologies you can use, and how to get started. So let's dive right in. Here on the IoT group, both in my team and our service teams full of all of the incredibly smart engineers who are building our services, we have this phrase we like to use. If you knew the state of everything and you could reason upon the data from all of those devices, what problems would you solve? And we love this phrase because for us, it's our customer-obsessed way of thinking about IoT in terms that customers have really told us are most important to them, which is how does IoT and the data from devices really help them solve their fundamental business problems? How does it help them be more efficient, help build new experiences for customers, help them save money, help them make money, help them delight the customers that they work with every day? And so that's what we're all about in the technologies that we build and how we help customers all around the world. And I'm excited to dive in and give you a couple of examples of that. But when I think about IoT, I think about innovation and I think about dealing with rapid change. And, you know, the COVID-19 situation that we've all been living through is maybe a good example of the kind of shifting circumstances that when you have data and you can reason upon that data, you can do some amazing things. And I think about some of the work being done by our partners like Domo, who have taken beacons and other IoT devices like thermal imaging cameras and sensors, and have been able to build on top of the data from those devices incredibly powerful applications to help organizations get back to work. An example of that is the contact tracing application that Domo has built that helps give insight to the business if there are any issues, how to track back and audit those issues, or some of the work we're doing with customers and Amazon as well, using some of these technologies to more efficiently and at scale provide equipment for monitoring at facilities and entryways so that we can make the workplace as safe as possible as we all return to our offices and our factories and our workplaces all around the world. And I think IoT is a perfect ingredient in solving some of these problems. How do you get those devices deployed really quickly? How do you ingest data from them and build the applications that allows you to have this kind of insight and respond this quickly? It's a great example of IoT driving innovation. And this is going to happen more and more. The estimate is that about 75 billion connected devices will be out there by the year 2025. That is a staggering number of devices and an even more staggering amount of data that's going to come from those devices. And you think of all the sources from connected home devices and sensors and factories and vehicles and mobility devices and medical equipment and energy. The list is almost endless. And so with that tsunami of data that's coming at us, how do we actually prepare for that? How do you actually make sense of that data? How does it actually help you and your organization be better? And that's kind of what I want to explore. There's lots of ways that IoT is helping solve, enterprise and industry scale problems, whether it be in manufacturing, where we're improving the performance and productivity of industrial processes, making supply chains more efficient to track inventory and streamline warehouse operations. It's the energy management in wind and solar deployments or smart meters across millions of consumers' homes around the world. We think about solving problems in healthcare, how we make equipment and data more available for clinicians and researchers and physicians to help all of us be healthier. how it's going to transform cities as they deploy new technology into their infrastructure, both for the city itself and vehicles that interact with that new smart infrastructure. The challenge of feeding the world in agriculture and how you think about creating healthier crops and greater efficiencies and greater yields to meet the challenges of an exploding population. How do you enhance safety for workers in construction sites and warehouses to keep them safe on the factory floor? Or how you build smarter experiences for all of us at home? These are the kinds of challenges that we think of when we think about IoT. And there's kind of two reasons why people embark on these challenges. And I built this slide after nearly a decade of experience in IoT and conversations with customers. And it really, in a lot of ways, comes down to two things. Customers are either seeking to drive operational efficiency, and that means using IoT data to decrease operational expenditure through things like efficiency and smart decision making and data-driven discipline in their operations. Or they're trying to use IoT data to drive revenue growth, new sources of revenue, new business models, new products, products that get better over time, products that drive deeper relationships with customers. Now, ideally, you're doing both of those things at the same time, but that can be hard. And to tell you the truth, when I talk to a lot of customers spend time there on the right-hand side of that slide in operational efficiency, partially because the return on investment is a little bit more clear. If you spend $1,000 to save $10,000, that's probably a project that you can get approved and might not have the same kind of friction that would come in changing the business model of how you fundamentally price and sell a product, which can have a lot of organizational dynamics involved in making that kind of decision. A lot of our most successful customers are doing both of these things at exactly the same time. IoT is also fundamentally changing some industrial market trends as well. And you see this when you think about this convergence between government standards and businesses and processes and this trend of Industry 4.0. And it leads to a few really interesting things. The move from mass production to mass customization. How can data help you not just produce one widget a million times, but perhaps the exact widget that your customer wants? How do you go from paying up front to having the data to pay as you go, kind of the same economics that the cloud is built on? How do you go from manual operations to much more automated operations, particularly in parts of the world where the demand for skilled manufacturing talent is at a premium, and the move to automation is sort of a requirement for companies to stay competitive? And finally, how do you move from a buy kind of environment to a subscribe kind of business model? Instead of buying the physical device, maybe you're subscribing to a service that brings those devices forward. And we've all heard that story of, I don't want to buy the engine, I want to subscribe to the capabilities and the outcomes of that engine. And this is sort of the promise that IoT brings to a lot of industries. At the end of the day, it comes down to this. Data is the new oil, and IoT is the pipeline that gets it to you. And all of that data that is coming off all of those devices and all of those sensors that have instrumented the physical world becomes an incredibly powerful source of data in your data lake that drives your machine learning, it drives analytics, and it drives future applications. And that is why it is so critical for organizations to really be able to build out IoT infrastructures as efficiently and as simply as possible. And I think about our friends at Volkswagen, who are a perfect example of this. AWS and Volkswagen announced earlier this year that we were embarking on helping Volkswagen build the new Volkswagen Industrial Cloud. Really, what they're trying to do is drive a production efficiency of over 30% across over 100 facilities in the VW operational family. This means instrumenting those factories with new sensors, ingesting data from existing equipment, fundamentally thinking about how they use that data to drive operational efficiency, to transform the supply chain, to work with their suppliers downstream. It's an incredibly exciting project, one of the largest of its kind in the entire world. But I think it shows the kind of leadership that Volkswagen has demonstrated in using IoT to really take their operations to the next level. And we've been incredibly excited to be a part of it. So that story from Volkswagen is really, really interesting, but you might be saying to yourself, how does that apply to my organization? And so let's explore for a second how IoT can help you digitally transform your operations and what you do for your customers. And the way I think about this is really kind of in three phases. Now, this doesn't have to be literally a stepped journey, but a lot of my experience with customers has taught me that these are kind of the stages that a lot of organizations go through. Some of this you can do in parallel, but let's walk through it nonetheless. So, and the first starting point is changing what you build, thinking about how a connected product really is different. And when you have that connection to a product, the experiences that you can evolve, the device that yesterday did one thing and today does something else. The car that had one capability yesterday and suddenly can go faster today. The audio-visual device that had one set of capabilities and tomorrow can do something fundamentally different. These evolving experiences really make it engaging for the end customer. And it's not just consumer devices, that applies to industrial equipment as well that might gain new product protocols, new machine learning capabilities, and so forth through that connected product experience. It's also about adding value-added services. How do you do new things to delight your customer going forward? And it's also about the data you get from a connected product that helps you build the next product. Imagine having all the data that tells you why your product delighted a customer, why it disappointed them, when it worked and when it didn't. You would take all of that data when you think about the next iteration of what you do and make it even better than it was going to be in the first place. The second thing a lot of our customers focus on is changing how they operate. And this is where a lot of those operational efficiencies we've talked about so far come into play. You think about building the efficiency dashboards and being able to get to the point of predictive response to whether it be failures or capacity planning. You might have something broken that stops shop floor. You may have demand that overwhelms that same operation. It will drive into supply chain enhancements and really get you to the point of smart factories and smart manufacturing capabilities. And then that final step, when you've connected those products, when you've thought about having a connected set of operations to drive efficiency, you might now think about maybe we need to change the market economics around what we provide to our customers. New business models, moving from a service to a service model from a leasing and a purchasing kind of example. The classic IoT example of I don't want to buy the engine, I want to buy a service that provides me the capability of that engine. The only way you can do that is to have the data from that connected product, to have the ability in how you operate to drive insights that all sets you up to building these new economic models. And ultimately, using that data to build new data-based revenue services. Now, a lot of our customers, like I say, start in that left-hand side, thinking about how a connected product can change the experience for their customers. And often, our customers will work across all of these three layers. But I would start there. Start with building that connected product. Think about how you change how you operate, and then tackle that real critical element of the economics behind what you do. I'll give you an example of how that would apply. I come from a long line of farmers in our family in Canada, and they've taught me a lot about agriculture, so it's near and dear to my heart. And when you think about changing what you build, the connected equipment in combines and tractors, the sensors in a field, the imaging and the drones that can be applied for soil health and plant health and yield, changing your operations of how we harvest and how we process food and products, how we think about automated operations in even both on harvest and also on growing, fertilizing, water and other elements in the soil. And then changing your economics, right? Predictive harvesting, livestock tracking, more efficient equipment maintenance, and a smarter overall agriculture supply chain. And these are the kinds of things that are going on right now in the agriculture industry all across the world as farmers work to meet the demand of feeding billions of people on the planet. But the reality is this, and this is my big advice to a lot of you, is that IoT can be a world of a lot of exploring and a lot less production. And so we see a lot of proof of concepts, a lot of pilot projects fail because they haven't overcome some of the hard parts of IoT. And what are those hard parts? Well, instrumenting the physical world takes time, especially if you have a brownfield of existing equipment. If you have to go back and touch all of that equipment in your fleet, devices that may be deployed at your customers, you really need a set of technologies that helps you do that as easily as possible. If you want to onboard millions of new devices, that can be difficult as well unless you're using the right tools. You have to think about security and privacy. It's job number one. And if this isn't done right, it can stop almost any project in its tracks. And that's why we think about security as our ultimate priority here at AWS. Organizations need to be able to deal with all of this data. I talked about that massive flow of data and how overwhelming it can be. Has your organization really thought through how we're going to use that data? Do we have the data science capabilities? Are we using a set of tools to make gaining insight from that data as easy as possible? Getting returns on your investment from those insights takes time. So you need to have organizational patience sometimes as you transform these operations and you see the benefits over time. And new business models can really challenge traditional approaches inside your organization. Often it's not the technology, but rather the organizational friction of changing maybe how you've always done things for decades, maybe hundreds of years, to now a fundamentally new model powered by data. And so successful companies have really learned these lessons. They know that organizational buy-in is absolutely critical. You have to have buy-in from the highest levels of your organization to be able to have the real leadership to be able to drive this kind of change. You have to know that nothing gets smarter without data, and that is why you need to be able to connect the physical world and extract the data from it to drive insights. It really does fundamentally change the customer experiences that you can offer. And here's the biggest thing. There's no compression algorithm for experience. You will know your industry better than anyone because you are an expert at it. And it's really about how this technology transforms it to a new level. But also know that these tools are getting easier and easier every single day. So you may want to think about disrupting before you get disrupted. And I think about Amazon broadly in a lot of ways and how these technologies have not only helped us help our customers in our fulfillment centers, in our retail experiences, in our consumer devices, in our transportation and logistics, in our data center operations, the advancements in robotics, the advancements in machine learning that we've been able to drive. We use this technology every single day to help our customers and to delight them with new experiences. And we've taken a lot of that experience, and this all comes back to there's no compression algorithm for experience. We have worked for years and years and years understanding what it takes to build these kinds of experiences at scale. And that experience has really influenced how we've built AWS IoT and how we help customers. We don't necessarily commercialize everything from inside of Amazon, but we take a lot of those experiences and we help you learn from the battle scars that we have in the past so you can do it maybe faster and even better than we've done it as well. And a big part of that are the IoT services that we provide. So AWS IoT is a set of services that help you easily build the infrastructure for IoT. We think of it as a bit of a virtuous cycle. You know, you ask the question, how can I enable customers to connect and manage devices at scale? And so we have a set of connectivity and control services that are the on-ramp for devices to connect to AWS. Allows you to ingest massive amounts of data from those devices, manage huge fleets, and make sure those fleets of devices are secure and updated at all times. We have a set of edge services that really answer the question, you know, how can I deploy these technologies at the edge and make sure devices work with AWS by default? One of those examples, Amazon FreeRTOS, is our real-time operating system for microcontroller-powered devices. These are the smallest sensors and devices in the IoT equation, and making sure that those kinds of devices can work with AWS by default is really critical. And something like AWS IoT Greengrass, it takes portions of our technology and pushes that out to the edge so you can build IoT applications and machine learning at the edge and deal with data at the edge when you need to, perhaps because of latency, perhaps because of a disconnected state, or regulations that require you to be out at the edge. We want to give you that flexibility between cloud and the edge. And finally, our analytics services that help you make sense of that data, to extract data from industrial sources with things like AWS IoT Sitewise, and drive analytics so you can get insights with AWS IoT Analytics. All of that is rounded out by the rest of AWS, our ML and AI and analytics services that helps you build the insights and applications you need to transform your operations. And lots of customers have done this. So I speak from experience, not just in the abstract. And you look at the names across this slide, from the consumer electronic makers like iRobot and Vizio to enterprises like Enel, who drive huge energy operations around the world. I think about smaller organizations like Fender, who have taken technology to hone their artisan skills in building amazing musical instruments, or the work we've done with VW that we've talked about earlier, or Philips Healthcare, who is transforming how doctors and clinicians help us all be healthy and safe. There's lots of examples of amazing IoT innovation in our customers. And we're really thankful for all those customers who have been working with us in AWS IoT and helping us provide the best set of technology possible. How can we help you? Our IoT services provide the broadest and deepest functionality to allow you to build these applications as easily as possible. We have multi-layered security as job number one to ensure that as you build these infrastructures, they are safe and secure. We have the tightest integrations with ML and AI and seamless integration between edge and the cloud. All of that is backed up by the AWS IoT team that can provide acceleration programs to help you get started really quickly, like our AWS IoT Jumpstarts that help you learn the technologies. Our AWS IoT Partner Network that brings silicon providers, industrial equipment makers, ISVs, communications partners, and systems integrators together to bring the best team to you to help you get the job that you need to get done as quickly and as effectively and cost effectively as possible. We have funding programs for pilots and POCs to help you kickstart those projects. And we have extensive digital transformation experience to help take some of the things that I've talked about today and the advice that we have and implement it inside of your organizations. And you can visit aws.amazon.com/IoT for more information. If you really want to dig into the technology, we have a whole training and certification program for IoT. This is something I make my own team use, so I can vouch for how great it is. 25 plus free digital courses that cover all of the topics that I've talked about today. You should also go look at previous summits and previous re-events where there are an immense number of videos that really dive really deep into all of AWS IoT and how we've helped customers. And you can go to aws.training to learn more. I hope this has been interesting. It's been a bit of a fast pass through a lot of great topics on IoT. Really, the thing to think about is, how can you use the data from devices to streamline your operations? How can you use that data to transform your products and find new revenue growth? How can you take the technologies that we've provided in AWS IoT to get started quickly, to let your teams innovate at the most fast paces possible, and to do amazing things for your customers? I hope this has been interesting. I hope you enjoy the rest of the virtual summit. And thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Thank you.